So welcome everybody, and thanks for coming back to Pyjama Chats, Positive Pyjama Chats. Love having you here, love our Wednesday morning talks, and looking forward to sharing more of my discoveries with you and hearing your thoughts on how this can apply and impact your life in a positive way, I hope. So we have been speaking the whole time about our power to respond to life, that 90% of what is going on for us, we really get to choose our own responses. We get to choose how we react to what is going on around us, and that's 90% of our story of what actually brings our life about. We were then talking about our ability to choose a response, to choose to respond differently, deliberately, in a way that will create for us the results that we want in our life. And as Tim Ferriss says, by doing less meaningless work so that we can focus on greater personal importance is not laziness. It's really hard for most people to accept that because our culture is based towards sacrifice, personal sacrifice, rather than personal productivity. It's a whole different paradigm, and busyness is really something that a lot of us get stuck in. So if the more we can be deliberate, the more we can focus on what's important to us, the more we will feel in control of our life and the happier we will be. Remembering that we have big rocks in our life. What's really important, our values, as we spoke about last week and a couple of weeks ago, the big rocks in our life, what makes us who we are, what makes us who we are to ourselves, to other people, in different roles that we have in our lives. And of course, from there, working out the most impactful things that we can do. So as Tim Ferriss says, doing less rather than more, figuring out what those most impactful 20% of things that we're trying to do are, so that we can lose those headaches, focus on those 20%ers, have more of an impact in our life where we're trying to go, and not do things that we get caught up with. Just focus on those 20%. The 80% are often busy things. They're the little pebbles, and they're not going to give us as much bang for our buck. So focusing on those 20% things is going to be really where the power is. Last week, we were speaking about discovering our values, looking at what is meaningful for us, what is uplifting for us, what is upsetting for us, and flipping that on its head so that we can figure out what really is important to us when things get suppressed. We looked at what brings us fulfillment, what fuels us, what really inspires us and lights a fire under us. We looked at who and what we admire, role models that come into our lives in one shape or another, whether we know them, read about them, seen them on TV, their characters in a book. All of those people are really important in shaping who we are. Finally, observing ourselves. Whether you've been doing that over the last week, whether you've been reflecting on that in things that are going on for you in and around your life, all these things are really, really useful to just work out who we are, what is important to us, and what we bring to the table. We talked about our values in relation to our business or career. A lot of us are really passionate about what we're doing. We're not just doing a job. We're following our heart and doing something that is really, really meaningful to us. So what is it that we're bringing to our career or our business? What values are we giving and providing care to clients that we work with? Whether that's in a whole workshop, whether that's in a one-on-one situation, all of these are really important, and they really make a difference to the environment that we're creating for ourselves and for those around us in our business, career, family, and our life in general. I wanted today to step from that into looking at our different roles. In my life, these are the roles that I have. I'll get to exactly why I wanted to talk about that today in just a moment. But you can see here I'm a wife. There's my hubby on the left. My 3 amazing stepkids, Scott, Megan and Ryan, fabulous guys, and their partners here too. 2 roles that I play. I'm a stepmom, I'm a wife, I'm a mum to 2 fur babies. I also look after, you can see down the bottom there, I look after international students. And these 2 monkeys in the middle there, well, I don't want to show you their faces, but they're my niece and nephew. My pride and joy, my niece and nephew, Eric and Bettina, are just amazing to be around. They're really, really important people in my life. Of course, like a few of you, I'm a massage therapist, so my clients are really important to me, and how I show up for them is vital. And I'm also a co-founder of our little company, Blossoming Me. So there's a whole lot of collaboration, both between Alexis and myself, as well as between other practitioners that are either not yet working with us or just working in the area. I love collaborating with other professionals and practitioners in various different ways. And this is making our business stronger. So these are the different roles that I have in my life. What are the roles that you have in your life? There are a few roles up here, like voluntary roles that I haven't put up, but what roles are in your life that are so important to you that you can see a whole vision around them? That vision is what I really wanted to talk to you about today. These roles they've changed, looking at my roles, I should say, in this way has changed how I view the world. If you spoke to me 6 months ago, I would have been talking to you like I have been for the last decade and a half or 2 around goals. Goals were how I viewed everything. But sometimes I really felt like there was a whole lot of pressure sitting on my shoulders, and I wondered why. Then, in that week between Christmas and New Year, in this last Christmas time, I listened to, well, this is going to date me, I listened to an old tape that I had heard a number of years before. This tape was actually around organising time, which is what brought me back to it. But then I looked at it, of course, in that time between Christmas and New Year where a lot of us are goal setting, I looked at it from a slightly different perspective. And I realised that what Sharon Nuber, the author on this tape, was talking about was, in fact, a different way of looking at life. Rather than looking at goals, she was looking at outcomes and intentions around the different roles that she plays in her life. And that's where I wanted to speak to you today, because those values we spoke about last week, they come into play so powerfully in the roles that we play in our life. One of the problems that I discovered in looking at my life from goals is that we actually focus on problems. As we have spoken about on Positive Pyjama Chats before, what we focus on, we get. So when we're looking at problems that we're trying to solve, we're focusing on the problem. If instead we look at solutions, we look at the bigger picture of what we're trying to create, we actually become more creative, more positive, and more productive. Rather than looking at a future time, we stay in the present. What does that do for us? Well, it enables us to stay grateful for what we already have. If I'm focused on some future time, I'm focused on lack and what I don't have yet. But if I'm focused on the present, it's much easier to be really grateful for what I already have, grateful for the abundance in my life, feel that I am already enough and I have enough, and that gratitude also empowers our creativity and our positivity and our productivity. It empowers us to think outside the box and focus on where we want to go. We are able to focus internally rather than be pressured by an external achievement-focused scenario. That takes us back to goals and is quite narrow. Now, don't get me wrong, goals have their place. If you're trying to achieve a certain task, they are brilliant, invaluable, and priceless. Goals will help you get tasks completed. But if you're wanting to create a whole vision for a role that you have, You wanting to create a whole outcome and bring your values to the fore that we were speaking about last week. You want that broader opportunity, that broader vision where your values in your relationships can come up, be uplifted. Let me give you an example. When I first listened to this tape, I don't know whether you've ever had this with your partner, but Andrew and I were going through one of those patches where we were bickering at each other. Life was getting too much. There was lots of pressure going on. This was even before COVID, but there was stuff going on and we were going through a bickering patch. What I discovered after focusing on these outcomes and what I wanted to create in my relationship with my hubby, I got clear on that, and the coffee date that we had after that period was one that we hadn't had for quite a while since the last time. There was quite a gap, I realised. This time, I was able to really listen, really encourage him, really inspire him, and focus on supporting him and really hear where he was at. I wasn't stuck in my own little world, as I sometimes can be. I was able to get out of that and focus on him. And that helped to change how I was looking at my world and my relationship with my hubby. That's just an example. But have a look at different outcomes for your roles. Are you a parent? Is that an inspiration for you? Is that something that really lights you up? What is it that you're wanting to create for your family in whatever age group or size and shape they might be? For me, it's about helping them to be themselves. It's inspiring them to be their best selves, to also be courageous and believe in themselves, both for my stepchildren as well as for the international kids that we host. As a co-founder of Blossoming Me, running this business with my business partner, this is a slightly different scenario for me. It's different to just being a practitioner. So for me, I'm wanting to be courageous, solution-focused, think about health for my individual clients, but also find other solutions. This comes back to the connecting and collaborating with other practitioners, as I'll get to. But I want to be impactful, adventurous, and courageous in how I share these ideas. I want to communicate effectively. I want to encourage and support both my clients and my team members. What is it for you in your roles? Then if we take this a little bit further, we can look at some of the outcomes and really work out what tiny steps we can chunk this down to. Because the smaller the step, the easier it is to achieve. And that sense of achievement will foster a desire to do more and be more. So being courageous and finding solutions and being solution focused in how I think about health for individuals led me to the tiny steps of finding other successful practitioners and mentors that I can learn from. Therapists who practice differently to the way I do, that we can share ideas and potentially collaborate, as I mentioned a moment ago. We could meet for coffee, meet in a networking scenario, or meet at a clinic, ours or theirs. And of course, researching, forums online, groups to learn from, lots of different opportunities that I can easily do and achieve these almost without thinking, just because I'm focused on outcomes that I'm wanting to gain as a co-founder. From these tiny steps, we can then work out what resources we need to achieve those. What sorts of therapists am I looking to connect with? In what ways are they different to who I am and what I'm doing? What sorts of things am I looking for? So a couple, there are many, many other types of therapists. And of course, I'm working with one, but other therapists outside of the two of us, chiropractors and naturopaths, just for example. And then there are people outside of the industry altogether. Who else can I connect with that might support the goals that I have? For example, HR and employee experience professionals who focus also on looking after their people, but in a different way than what I have been. So as we look at these different roles and come back into our pyjama chat for the day, I'm wanting us to think about these three questions. What roles are our lives made up of? What intentions or outcomes would we like for each of these roles? And from those outcomes, what resources do you think will be useful for you? What do you need to help you to achieve those resources? So I'd like to thank you for joining me this morning in my presentation, and I'd like to invite you to turn on your microphones and your videos if you're game, and let's have a chat.